Welcome to this meeting on the Museum of Troubles and Peace. It's the second such meeting I've chaired. We had one, how many months ago, Irene, now?
We had more than that.
I know, but one which
but
I chaired.
Yes, together with you.
In the Lanyon building, yeah. So this is one of a sort of series of meetings about this initiative, which I think a number of us, the board members, think will be a timely project to actually put into practice, but obviously is not without its controversy because everybody wonders what will be the balance in such a museum. But we're going to have a number of presentations for you today from board members. I'm joined already up here by John Barry, who many of you will know is an academic here at Queen's, and formerly very glad now to not be a local councillor being bothered about everybody's bin emptying woes in North Down, but he's turning his thoughts to the museum. We've also got Jane Morris here, my former colleague, but also former head of the European office when such a thing existed in Belfast. And I think we will also, during the course of the meeting, hear from, if I not muck up your pronunciation, Gul Kachmaz Park. Yes, got that right. There you go. That will be the one and only time I actually get that right. Also, Shelby Hannah and possibly Frank. And sorry, who else? I've missed somebody out. But anyway, but we'll crack on. Because obviously this has been around for some time, but it's still yet to become a reality for all sorts of reasons. But John, you prepared us a presentation, so please crack on with it now. Thanks.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. You're all very welcome here. I'd like to welcome on behalf of the Centre for Sustainability, Equality and Climate Action. And this is an initiative to look at the concept, but really it's asking kind of that Bob Geldof question from Live Aid, where he said, give us your bleeding money. It is about asking for people's support in a tangible way in terms of joining the initiative and helping it bring it to fruition. And I love the fact that it has a great acronym, MOTAP. It almost sounds like a variation of Motown. I'll say a little bit my own interest in this initiative, and particularly that it's great to be hosting it at Queen's University. We are a civic university. It's great to see some of my colleagues and some retired colleagues here, is that we have committed ourselves in our 2030 strategy to be a civic university. So for anybody who's involved in an initiative, please get in contact with me, because essentially your taxes pay for the upkeep of this place. Your taxes pay for my wages, although clearly not enough to be sartorially elegant like a professor perhaps should be, but it's your university. So this place is often empty in the evenings. There are many groups that could be looking for rooms to use, such as this or the Canada room. So please do see this as an open invitation for anybody in the audience involved in an initiative, a group or organisation wants to host an event here. Please do so. Contact me, John Barry. You can find my email address on the Queen's website. So you might want to ask, my area of specialism is the nice happy topic of the planetary crisis, the climate and ecological devastation that we're now seeing unfolding in real time before our eyes. So why am I and my centre particularly interested in the Museum of the Troubles and the past? I have to say I'm not just a recovering politician, as Mark said, but I'm a resident and citizen of this place, and I find it extraordinary, but not unbelievable, that we don't have a museum where the different contested narratives of the past can be played out, that people make up their own minds and so on. That may be something we can get into as to why this hasn't happened up until now. But what I'm particularly interested in is maybe less the backward-looking issues of the Troubles, and I do tend to think that in this part of the world, we tend to march into the future looking backwards. We march into the future looking backwards. And I think the peace element is about looking forward. What can we learn in terms of the unfinished process that we're still working our way through in terms of 30 years, 300, depending on your view of conflict. And my own view is certainly, when I look at the climate, the energy challenge, the fact that we have the highest rates of fuel poverty here in Europe, that we're not going in the right direction as a species or a society in dealing with the biggest threat humanity has ever faced, in terms of the climate crisis, we tend to forget this is not just a technical issue of science, greenhouse gas emissions, carbon budgets, and so on. It's a deeply ethical and issue-based injustice and inclusion. And for me, it's part of a recognition that the transition from our current very carbon-based, oil, coal and gas-based economies to a low-carbon one will not be without its difficulties. And in fact, it's going to be a conflict transformation process. There will be winners and losers. What do we say and do to those displaced coal workers in Appalachia or Poland or Germany, or a displaced oil and gas worker in the North Sea whose skills are no longer required because they're moving away from this particular energy source? So for me, as somebody who's looking at these contemporary and near-term future issues, an examination of the lessons from the peace process, both here and other parts of the world, is invaluable. Because a mantra that some of you may have already picked up on in this discussion of climate and energy transition issues is the idea of a just transition. So how do we make sure that nobody's left behind? How do we negotiate and democratically navigate our way through the crisis that we're now facing in terms of the planetary emergency? And so I do think that the peace element of this initiative is particularly important in a way to stop us from falling into the trap of simply scratching old wounds for the sake of it. And I think there will be difficult discussions we have to have about the past and our different perspectives on the past. But what interests me in particular, as I say, is that idea of conflict transformation. I won't bore you, there are colleagues here more eminent to me than my colleague here, John Morrison, about the difference between a conflict management process and a conflict transformation process. And I still think at part we're still in a conflict management process here. We haven't really realised the full fruits of reconciliation. But in a way, I'm not trying to say we burden the climate crisis now on top of our unfinished peace process. We can both walk and talk at the same time. It seems to me that making peace with each other and also with the planet is part and parcel of what we need to do in this age that we often call in the academy the Anthropocene, the age of the human, where human beings are now a geological force on the planet, whereby we've wrought changes to the climate. So I don't think it's that much of a step to look at this initiative of a Museum of the Troubles and Peace to see it's not just about a backward-looking analysis. It is about equipping us with the lessons to how do we democratically and justly negotiate, muddle through, engage in compromise as we did to get to where we are now, and to see that actually we do have something to offer in the Northern Ireland peace process to this much larger global issue. And it's the truth in a way, not just of Tip O'Neill, the great American politician who said all politics is local, but certainly in my area of research, the local and the global have to go together. We need to act locally while thinking globally. So I do think that this museum is not just a backwards-looking analysis of where we come from, but actually enables us to avoid what I mentioned a moment ago of marking into the future, looking backwards. So I'm looking forward to the discussion, but don't forget, we're going to be asking people to step up and help bring this initiative to reality. And I applaud Gull, Irene, and everybody else who's been involved in this. And again, last point was to reiterate, anybody who has any other initiative and thing that you're involved in, I'd like to help with the university, that we can do whatever we can to help. After all, as I say, you pay for our wages of the upkeep. So thanks very much.